What about Jephthah? Did he really offer his daughter as a sacrifice, or some people say that she was sold for temple or something like that? I don't know.
Hmm. Yeah, it's quite a story, of course, if you go back. Do you know where it is in Judges? Chapter 10. Um, and there it's actually a very interesting transition point in the Judges. But Jephthah himself comes across as a kind of bandit leader of a group of bandits. And then suddenly the people who mocked him and booted him out of their tribe in Gilead and elsewhere, they come to him and say, "We really need you because you know, the foreign nation, the Ammonites, they're attacking us and doing bad things to us." So Jephthah says, "Okay, I will do this." And then he bargains with them to be recognized as a leader. And then he sets off to deal with the Ammonites, and he initially sends messages to them and engages with them, but no success in terms of the messages. So he goes off to fight with them, and he says, as he goes to fight, he says, "Look, whoever," in verse 31, "whoever comes out of the door of my house to meet me, if you give," in verse 30, "if you give the Ammonites into my hands," he says to God, whatever actually comes out of the door of my house to meet me when I return in triumph from the Ammonites will be the Lord's, and I will sacrifice it as a burnt offering." Now, everyone, I think, rightly assumes that the first thing he would encounter, a living thing, would be an animal from his flock, maybe a sheep or goats or something else. Everyone who had any wealth at all, and even those who didn't, would have a flock, at least one or two lambs or goats for the food that they provided, and wool and garments and things like this. And so I suspect this was his suspicion that he'd counter the flock and herds. But of course he doesn't. Instead, his daughter comes out, probably advancing beyond the flocks and herds to meet him. She didn't know about this vow. And I think it was a vow made hastily. It was made rashly. It was made without consulting God. It was made by someone who wished to make a great vow before God so that God would be on his side, a kind of negotiation, which is not how you do things with God. And that, of course, is what James says. Don't make vows in the book of James. But let your word be, if God wills, we will do this. If God wills, but don't say, if God gives me this, then I will do it, because you don't know what is going to come of that. And for Jephthah, it was his daughter who came out. Now, I know there are some people who say, well, she was never sacrificed by Jephthah. He wouldn't do that. She was simply committed to some sort of perpetual, maybe virginity and perpetual life, serving in a tabernacle or temple. But as you read the story of what happens to her, as she asks for time to go and spend time with her other friends, her girlfriends, and go out and pray to God and so forth, he says, "You may go." And so she and her friends went into the hills and wept because she would never marry. And after the 2 months, she returned to her father, and he did to her as he had vowed, and she was a virgin. It never says that there was anything less than sacrifice. I don't think this was God's will. I don't think he wanted this, but Jephthah had made a vow, like Saul would later make a vow that if anyone ate on that day when he wanted to destroy the Philistines, they would pay for it with their life. He would kill them. And of course, Jonathan, his own son, made that vow, or excuse me, ate some honey. And when it was found out, Saul just simply ignored the vow and didn't carry through. And that was not a good thing because he found himself at odds with God. God takes vows very seriously. That's what happened here. And as far as I can understand the text, Jephthah did sacrifice his daughter, even though it was not the will of God. He did go through with it. And that sadly is what resulted from his rashness. And what I would say overall was a general brutality that Jephthah characterized and a failure to really seek and follow God's will.